Once upon a time, a Navy base in the East Blue region faced a major attack. It turned out that the perpetrators of the attack were two people named Miss Valentine and Mr. Five, respectively. Not long after, their colleague named Miss All Sunday arrived at the location. It turned out that Miss All Sunday and her two colleagues were members of an organization called Baroque Works. After that, Miss All Sunday, with her devil fruit powers, was able to eliminate many Marines by herself. Miss All Sunday's team then entered the morgue facility, which confirmed the death of Mr. Seven, who was a member of the organization Baroque Works. Thanks to information from a Marine, Miss All Sunday was able to find out that Mr. Seven was killed by Zoro. Miss All Sunday finally started to become interested upon learning that Zoro had now become a pirate under Luffy's leadership. On the other hand, Luffy's pirate group, now commonly called the Straw Hats, was sailing towards the Grand Line. Well, it turned out the Straw Hats were at the edge of the East Blue region. In the middle of the journey, Nami, with her navigation skills, managed to find the best route to reach the Grand Line. After that, Luffy agreed to his crew's suggestion to stop by Loguetown first, so they could buy important basic necessities for the journey to the Grand Line. Apparently, Luffy had long wanted to visit Loguetown because that city was the place of the Pirate King Roger's death. More specifically, Luffy really wanted to see Roger's execution platform. While in the past, Roger, who was languishing in prison, was visited by Garp. It turned out, Garp was the Marine who captured Roger after they had been involved in battles for a long time. Interestingly, Roger had a high sense of trust in Garp because Luffy's grandfather was a good person. This is why Roger, who was about to be executed, revealed his last message to Garp. Through this message, Roger hoped Garp find and take care of Roger's young child. Roger also did not want his child to die just because they were the descendant of a great criminal. In the end, Garp did not want to respond to Roger's last message, because a death row inmate like Roger should not be making requests before being executed. Returning to the present, the Straw Hats finally arrived in Loguetown. Well, even though Luffy was now the most wanted fugitive in the East Blue, he was not at all afraid that his status would be disrupted. Afterwards, the Straw Hats found that on that day the city residents were celebrating the anniversary of Roger's death. The Straw Hats finally scattered and would meet again at the agreed location after they got their respective targeted items. As time went by, Nami bought an East Blue History Atlas to smooth her main mission, which was to make a world map. Meanwhile, Usopp bought special glasses. After that, Nami faced a man named Bartolomeo who seemed to have evil intentions. With the threat present, Nami warned Bartolomeo not to mess with her. From there, Bartolomeo finally chose to leave without resistance, even though he claimed to be the person in power in Loguetown. At the same time, Luffy accompanied Sanji to shop at the food ingredients market. Sanji then found one remaining elephant tuna, because previously the restaurant where Sanji used to work had bought up all the elephant tuna. Sanji then bought that last elephant tuna, so that later he could cook a dish prepared from that fish. On the other hand, Zoro accidentally bumped into a woman named Tashigi until she fell. Zoro then apologized before they got to know each other without revealing their true identities. Meanwhile, a Marine captain named Smoker brought his captured pirates to Loguetown. It turned out Smoker was Tashigi's superior. As time went by, Zoro visited a sword shop owned by a man named Ippon Matsu. With borrowed money from Nami, Zoro planned to buy 2 swords to complement his one remaining sword. While Ippon Matsu was interested in the sword Zoro brought, Tashigi also visited the same shop. Apparently, Tashigi was Ippon Matsu's favorite customer. With her extensive knowledge of swords, Tashigi could confirm the sword Zoro brought was a special sword. Tashigi then helped Zoro to choose said sword. In the process, Zoro found a special sword that had a curse so that no swordsman dared to use it. In fact, Ippon Matsu actually wanted to get rid of that sword from the shop, but he was afraid of being hit by the curse. With his courage, Zoro performed a risky test to prove whether the sword's curse could defeat his strong will. The result, it was proven that Zoro's strong will outperformed the sword's curse so that he dared to own the sword. Saluting Zoro, Ippon Matsu finally gave one of the best swords in his shop for free. Apparently, Ippon Matsu acted this way because he had not seen a great swordsman figure like Zoro for a long time. In the evening, Luffy left Sanji so he could look for Roger's execution platform. Luffy then got to know Bartolomeo, so from there Bartolomeo was willing to help Luffy find Roger's execution platform. Not long after, Luffy was disturbed by Buggy. We are reminded again, Buggy had been enemies with Luffy before they allied for their respective interests. While now, Buggy wants to take revenge on Luffy by ending his adventure. A few seconds later, Alvida, who is now Buggy's ally, showed herself. It turned out, Alvida wanted revenge on Luffy because previously Luffy had destroyed Alvida's ship and made Kobe brave enough to run away. While fighting Luffy, Alvida showed she now has devil fruit powers. Thanks to the devil fruit power she ate, Alvida's body cannot be hit by attacks. In the end, Alvida managed to incapacitate Luffy. After that, Luffy woke up near Buggy and his friends. Apparently, Luffy was detained with handcuffs made of sea stone. So those handcuffs made a devil fruit eater like Luffy lose their energy and unique powers. Buggy's group then ran an arranged trial, so as if they had the right to sentence Luffy to death on this platform. Before long, the Straw Hats crew managed to find Luffy, then fought Buggy's group, then tried to save Luffy. On the other hand, Smoker intentionally let the fight between the Straw Hats and Buggy's group happen. The goal was so that later Smoker would just have to capture those who managed to survive the clash. Afterwards, Nami was overwhelmed by Alvida because her attacks always missed due to Alvida's devil fruit power. Then, in this situation, Usopp managed to shoot Alvida with a pepper bullet by utilizing Nami's weapon. Time continued to pass until Buggy brought Luffy to the execution platform. When his head was about to be beheaded by Buggy, Luffy apologized to the Straw Hats because he was going to die. Surprisingly, Luffy actually laughed when his life was about to slip away. Luffy's laughter instantly reminded Smoker of Roger, who also did the same thing before being executed. As Buggy prepared to finish Luffy off, suddenly a bolt of lightning struck Buggy and destroyed the platform. After successfully surviving, Luffy and Sanji rushed back to the ship to catch up with their friends. Unfortunately, Luffy had to face Smoker, who was ambitious to capture him. As they fought, Smoker showed his devil fruit power where he was able to turn his body into smoke. Without any significant difficulty, Smoker managed to incapacitate Luffy. Then, as Smoker prepared to capture Luffy, suddenly a mysterious man recognized by Smoker appeared. It turned out the man was a fugitive of the world government. With his power, the mysterious man managed to send Smoker flying far away. At the same time, Zoro managed to defeat Tashigi. Apparently, their fight happened because Tashigi already knew Zoro's identity as a pirate. A few minutes later, Luffy and Sanji managed to return to the ship. Luffy then began to wonder about the identity of the mysterious man. As the Straw Hats left Loguetown, the mysterious man hinted that he knew Luffy. After that, Tashigi and Miss All Sunday got to know each other in a bar without knowing each other's identities. Then, before leaving, Miss All Sunday gave a Baroque Works card as if she wanted to invite Tashigi to join the organization. Not long after, Smoker met Tashigi and told her that the bar had once been locked. Tashigi visited Roger before the Pirate King went to the Grand Line. Smoker then revealed his main mission was to prevent the birth of a new Pirate King. This is why from now on Smoker is focusing on hunting Luffy, because the boy has reaffirmed his commitment to becoming the Pirate King. As time went by, the Straw Hats approached the river's mountain area. Then, in the middle of a discussion, Nami, with her expertise as a navigator, assessed that River's Mountain was the only safe route to enter the Grand Line. In the end, Luffy and all the crew trusted Nami's theory because they could only rely on Nami's expertise. A few minutes later, the Straw Hat ship named Going Merry was dragged by a strong current leading to the peak of River's Mountain. As a result of this current, Merry sped uncontrollably and risked hitting shipwrecks around the location. The situation became even more worrying after Zoro and the others accidentally damaged Merry's steering lever in an attempt to control the ship. With his power as a rubberman, Luffy managed to control Merry's direction so he could prevent a collision with the shipwrecks. Not long after, the crew tried to spread the sails so Merry could climb to the peak of River's Mountain smoothly. Once it reached the top, Mary passed through the downhill path. Just as the Straw Hats felt they were free from deadly obstacles, there was a whale named Laboon in front of their ship. Because they could not drive Laboon away, the Straw Hats and Mary ended up entering the whale's mouth. A few moments later, Luffy woke up in a cliff area that was part of River's Mountain. Luffy was then surprised to see Laboon's action of intentionally slamming its head against the cliffs of River's Mountain as if the whale had a motive for doing so. Not long after, an old man named Crocus managed to fire an anesthetic into Laboon's body. Due to the effect of the anesthetic, Laboon finally fell asleep and returned to the sea. After taking care of Laboon, Crocus received several questions from Luffy. From there, Crocus admitted he was a lighthouse keeper and lived alone. Crocus insisted that all of Luffy's crew must have died from entering Laboon's mouth. However, Luffy believed that all of his crew must still be alive in a trapped condition. After that, Luffy broke into Crocus's house. Influenced by Luffy's strong determination, Crocus finally wanted to help save the Straw Hats and Mary, as long as Luffy was willing to follow Crocus's strategy. Crocus told about his past related to Laboon. So years ago, Crocus got to know a group of musician pirates named Rumbar who successfully passed River's Mountain. Well, Captain Rumbar's guess was that Laboon had been separated from its pod and lived alone before it became Rumbar's friend. After repairing the ship, Rumbar prepared to go to the Grand Line to embark on a new adventure. Then, before leaving, the Rumbar crew asked Laboon to wait in the River Mountain area until the pirate group returned there. Rumbar also promised they would return to adventure with Laboon after they finished exploring the Grand Line. Time went on until Laboon often slammed its head against the cliffs of River's Mountain because it was frustrated to see that Rumbar had not returned. Crocus always tried to convince Laboon that Rumbar was no longer there, possibly because they died due to the cruelty of the Grand Line world. After telling that past, Crocus explained that until now Laboon still continues to slam its head against the cliffs of River's Mountain, so that the whale could destroy the cliff and find a way to search for Rumbar. Well, for the safety of Laboon, Crocus finally routinely fired anesthetics with a sleeping effect so that the whale's head could avoid fatal injuries from frequently hitting the cliff. On the other hand, it turned out the Straw Hats were indeed still alive, while Mary was still in one piece. They then tried to find a way to get out of Laboon's mouth, which contained many shipwrecks. Then, in the middle of a mission to repair Mary's steering lever, the Straw Hats managed to catch two bad people who were also trapped inside Laboon's mouth. As a result of being threatened by Zoro, the two people admitted that they were Mr. Nine and Miss Wednesday, who were agents of Baroque Works. Meanwhile, Smoker, who was still in Loguetown, was trying to get permission to go to the Grand Line to launch his mission to hunt Luffy. In this situation, Smoker met Vice Admiral Garp. Their interaction revealed that Loguetown is a city that is the center of Navy activities in the East Blue. Interestingly, Kobe and his partner, who are escorting Garp, have now become Marines. After that, Garp invited Smoker to his office to speak privately. Then, at the beginning of the conversation, Smoker admitted he failed to capture Luffy due to an attack by a mysterious man. Well, it turned out that Garp and Smoker already knew the man was named Dragon, the leader of the Revolutionary Army who was gathering support to overthrow the world government. Garp then shifted to discussing the existence of Baroque Works, which is very difficult to track. It turns out, Baroque Works is a mysterious assassin organization based in the Grand Line. In Garp's eyes, Baroque Works is more urgent to deal with than Luffy and his crew, because the longer they operate, the more dangerous Baroque Works' actions become. In order to get permission to go to the Grand Line, Smoker finally accepted a mission from Garp to capture Baroque Works agents alive. Apparently, this mission was given because so far the Navy had always failed to capture Baroque Works agents alive. Back at River's Mountain, Crocus fired an anesthetic into Laboon's body as the whale tried again to destroy the river's mountain cliff. Unfortunately, Laboon only fell asleep for a few seconds because it was starting to become immune to Crocus's anesthetic. However, Luffy still managed to approach Laboon. Luffy then sang a legendary song, Lumber, which Laboon turned out to like. Thanks to this song, Luffy managed to win Laboon's heart. At Luffy's request, Laboon finally let the Straw Hats and Mary out in one piece. Crocus revealed that an ordinary compass would not work in the Grand Line. The reason is every island in that region has a magnetic field that is different from the Earth's magnetic field. As a solution, Crocus gave his tool called a lockpost so the Straw Hats could get directions to the islands in the Grand Line. After that, Luffy managed to paint the Straw Hat symbol on Laboon's head. Luffy then emphasized that the symbol represented the friendship between the Straw Hats and Laboon. Now the Straw Hats are ready to sail the Grand Line, which so far has various kinds of deadly threats. On the other hand, Crocus secretly kept a secret that he had once been friends with the Pirate King Roger. Crocus always believed a persistent and brave person like Luffy could reach Loguetown and find the One Piece. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed the video, don't forget to hit like and subscribe so you won't miss the next epic story. See you in the next video.